Yeah, thank you for everybody for having me. As I was saying before we launched in, this is actually, I think this is the first presentation I've done since the book has come out. The book came out January 6th of this year. I've given variations of this program a number of times as I was assembling it. The book was in publication for about 2 years. So I've been doing a couple of different events, but this is the first kind of book talk that I've given since it's come out. So for tonight, rather than try to squeeze in 160 years into a 45-minute, we're going to kind of hit the highlight of the book, which really focuses on the boom period. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Really 1890 to 1900. I'll put it in broader context as well, but that's going to be my general focus to try to keep our content manageable. So how did I get on the topic? How does one become a bicycle historian? After I was tenured at the university, I'm a librarian at Illinois Wesleyan. I was looking for a new project, something that could kind of leverage my skills in the liberal arts as a historian and a librarian and a cyclist. So I kind of smashed all of those things together and started discovering some interesting things about the history of bicycling in Illinois. And in order to get published, right, you need to have some sort of a literature gap, something that other people haven't written about and also has some significance, right? There's tons of things that haven't been written about, but what's the significance is sometimes questionable. So as I was researching this, I was like, this is really interesting. At first I thought it was going to be an article, and then pretty soon I decided, this is worth working up into a book, and this is my first book. So I've been a cyclist my whole life in Illinois for most of my life, and for historian, if you're researching things that are somewhat local or regional, I didn't have to travel like to Europe, right? If I was going to try to do medieval history or something, it would get very expensive and timely, flying to where the archives are. A lot of the historical materials have stayed fairly local. So I spent a lot of time in archives and museums in Chicago. I went over to Bicycle Museum of America in Ohio. I went to the Henry Ford Museum, and this is where I got my archival side of my research. If people tell you everything is online, they have not visited any of our great archives and museums because there's still a wealth of things that have not been digitized. All right. So as I mentioned, goals, we're gonna focus in on this boom period, which is some of the most interesting history. Part of the main thesis of the book that I'm going to work to persuade you on is that Illinois had a significant demonstrable impacts on broader American industry, social life, and culture. So that's one of my big themes throughout the book. And this is tied closely, at least in the boom period, to the goals of progressive era reformers. So progressive era, this was kind of pre-prohibition, women's rights, factory reform. These were some of the goals of the progressive era. I'll move through it kind of quick and we'll take questions at the end. At some point, I'm going to keep an eye on time. The way I build my slideshows, I've got more than we will cover, so I'll just keep an eye on time, and the rest of it we will just skip over. I tried to put the more interesting and important stuff first. So this is a secondary thesis it's one that I also trace throughout the book. And it says this is just talking about the bikes during the bicycle boom. The boulevard's crowded with wheels, and their riders are from every walk of and avocation of life. The merchant, the prince, the mister of fashion, the minister of gospel, miller, milliner, the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker all roll on in one grand procession, indifferent to all social and business distinctions, each feeling a fraternal interest in all the rest, and each yielding a cheerful obedience, code of ethics that governs the democracy of the wheel. So this democracy of the wheel is something I kind of keep coming back to. This was a fairly widespread belief during this boom period that bicycles were really going to create a more egalitarian society. This was a fun discovery, the 1900 census. If you've looked at census reports at all, they're usually pretty bland, austere, right? And so this is what the census had to say. It's safe to say that with few articles ever used by man have ever created so great a revolution in social conditions as the bicycle. So this is the context of this bicycle boom that we're operating in, and it's so different from today that each time I discovered one of these was it was a real treat. And I was like, I got to work that into the text somehow. This chart is just to get us all reoriented on Illinois history, and I'm kind of then aligning it with bicycle history. So if we go all the way back, Illinois became a state in 1818. Chicago was incorporated in 1837. 1870, look at that. Chicago was only 300,000 people, right? It's pretty small. And that was about the first time that bicycles appeared in 1868. The Great Fire was 1871, Haymarket Riot 1886, and the World's Fair 1893. And then the right-hand side is just some of the bicycle events that correlate. So that's Illinois context. Now, to really to understand parts of the bicycle boom, we have to understand how bicycles developed because they don't look originally like what we have now. So the very first thing that people call a bicycle is this object that we're seeing here. This is called a draisine or a hobby horse. It was invented in Germany about 1817. And the invention here is that it has articulated steering, so that front wheel can turn. That was the big invention. When you start to fall on a bicycle, you actually turn into the fall. And this also, you ran with your feet. This was also called a running machine, Laufsmaschine in German, running machine. They were popular only for a short period of time. There was a big kind of surge in interest, and then they're like, this isn't actually that fun on the roads of the 19th century, early 19th century. So they did not last for too long. Then there was another innovation. So if you see the bicycle over on the right, this is what's called a bone shaker or velocipede. Those are, and that one that has wooden spokes and a steel rim. Sometimes it was steel spokes and a steel rim. You can imagine riding something like this, right? Where you get the bone shaker name from. It definitely transferred a lot of that road shock to the rider. But the big innovation here, there's pedals on the front wheel. So now you're not running with your feet. You actually are able to pedal the thing and steer at the same time. Really what most people call the first modern bicycle. In 1868, these first began appearing in Illinois. This print is from a little bit later than the velocipede era, but it pictures a velocipede. This was from Quincy, Illinois, velocipede tobacco, right? They were trying to capitalize on the bicycle's popularity to sell their tobacco. People are probably a little bit more familiar with these, the kind of iconic high wheel. They have a couple different names, high wheel, ordinary, or penny farthing. Why did the wheels get so big? People love to race, right? As soon as they put pedals on them, they started having races. If you wanted to go faster without any gears, you needed a bigger wheel. That's really the only reason that the wheels got so big. They enlarged the wheels till they could no longer reach the pedals. I have one of these. It's a 50-inch, and that fits me pretty good at 5'8". The biggest ones were like a 58-inch front wheel. Some of them had brakes, some didn't, but you really can't use that brake. If you put much pressure on it, you'll go right over the bars because of the way that the center of gravity works on these bikes. The wire spokes do absorb some of the road shock, so better than the bone shakers. They're surprisingly light. 35, 45 pounds. That's pretty accurate for a medium-sized penny farthing. So why ordinary? Ordinary name came later. That was cyclists of the day used to say this is the traditional bicycle, and the bicycle that came next is called the safety, and we'll look at that in a minute. Penny farthing is the English term for it. The difference in size between the penny larger and the farthing smaller is just a ratio of sizes. That's why the penny farthing name came about. So these look a little bit more like what we know today, right? So in the late and mid 1880s, we get a safety bicycle. Safety because it's closer to the ground, less likely to go over the handlebars. The big innovation is like, oh, if we attach a chain, we can drive the rear wheel, and we can also take advantage. We can use mechanical advantage to go as fast as we want, really, as fast as you can turn those gears. You put a big sprocket in front and small in the back, and you get quite a good range of mechanical advantage to go a lot faster than the other bicycles did. Pneumatic tires started coming into popularity in 1888. Pneumatic tires were, again, they were faster and more comfortable. All of this, right, is leading to a boom. This new bicycle design is one of the things that spurred the bicycle boom where we're going to spend most of our time. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this boom and some large big picture context before we get a little bit more specific. In the mid 1800s, the League of American Wheelmen valued the total economy in the bicycle economy in the United States at 75 million. So if I put that into an inflation calculator, 2.7 billion was what everything for bicycles. That's bikes, clothing, races, storage. That was their estimate. Perhaps high, but not too high. 60,000 workers per year churned out more than 1 million bicycles. From 1892 to 96, 1/3 of all patents in the United States were related to bicycles, right? So this tells you how big this actually was during this time period. If 1/3 of everything, think of all the inventions that were happening late in the 19th century, bikes were really the popular thing. A little bit more context. In 1897, bicycle exports, so this is just exporting out of the country, they peaked at 7 million or about 255 million in current dollars. Between a quarter and a third of all bicycles left the country as exports. And this is a really great statistic to kind of put it into context. Bicycles ranked ninth among all US exports. And that wasn't just like finished goods. So if you look at this chart from 1898, what's up at the top? Iron, oil, copper, and leather. And you got bikes coming in at ninth. So this was for a time a big part of the American economy. The poster I've got over there on the right hand side, Luthi was a Peoria bicycle company. And this was a poster from those bikes being sold in France. So Peoria exported bikes all over the world, including France. So that was nationwide. What about in Illinois specifically? I'm gonna move my box here. So one of the big Chicago races was called the Pullman, and it had over 200,000 spectators. 1895, so Chicago at that time, it would have been between 1 million and a million and a half. And 200,000 of those were estimated to come out to a race. 100,000 people attended the third annual bike show. So I looked this up today, actually. The modern Interbike is the last big bike show in the United States. So now that's getting 20,000 people at its peak. So that kind of a comparison, like how the change in interest in cycling. It was estimated that 1 out of every 5 Chicagoans were riding bikes. 1898, the Fair department store. My picture on the left-hand side here is the Fair department store. At some point, they sold 1,000 bikes a day. As a historian, you have to question these statistics, and so I followed up on all of these, and I did find documentation for this Fair department store selling these, at least newspaper articles. That was probably some of their best days. I don't know that they did that routinely, but 1,000. Most bike shops, I don't know that any bike shops in the state exceed that for the year, and even probably not 1,000 for a year anymore. So again, the scale of the boom. As a historian, I'm making arguments, right, about the popularity of the bicycle and the impact. It's always great when we can move away from subjectivity to something that's quantitative, right? So this was another great find when I was looking through some Chicago Tribune articles. The story is that there was two businessmen. They placed a wager like, no, bicycling's not that popular, and the other guys are arguing, yes, it is. So what they did was place observers through all the major thoroughfares coming into downtown Chicago. So this was from 1898. They counted between 6 and 9 a.m. During that time, 10,500 riders, and that included 521 women, 300 boys, 134 black cyclists. It peaked at 211 riders per minute. If you can imagine 211 riders streaming past you, that was on one street on Jackson Boulevard. So I compared that to like modern Copenhagen, right? You've seen Copenhagen, you've seen Amsterdam, pictures of people riding there. Everybody commutes. Nothing. That's 38 riders per minute at peak in those. So again, the scope is unlike anything we have. There's no comparison today. The bicycle industry is a big part of my argument throughout the book. Chicago Trib, well, maybe they're tooting their own horn, right? Chicago's the bicycle center of the United States. I argue that it did become that in the 1800s. This other thing, this Chicago Bicycle Directory, the Chicago History Museum owns this. It was a great resource for me. It claimed that 2/3 of the country's output of bicycles and accessories come from within a radius of 150 miles around Chicago. So what does that circle look like, right? 150 miles from Chicago. So that's Chicago and all the suburbs. It's Milwaukee, who had a lot of production at the time, a little bit in Northwest Indiana, and Peoria was a big manufacturer. So the claim was that between all of those, it was 2/3 of the country's output. Might have been a little bit of boosterism, but it was pretty close based off of data that I found. So what kind of data? There's this thing called the United States Census of Manufacturers. This is different than the census that counts people. This was the output from different manufacturers. So in 1900, this is like the boom was declining at this point. And it found that Illinois, the large manufacturers made $8 million worth of bicycles, and it was 28% of the national total. So state-wise, New York was a distant second with like 3.8 million. So you know this adds to my argument, and it puts some hard data behind those numbers. And actually, Illinois' total value is greater than that of all the New England states. This is one argument where my book is changing bicycle history a little bit. For a variety of reasons, bicycle history, United States history, has been East Coast centric up until there's a Wisconsin book and now my book. So this is kind of showing that, well, yeah, there was definitely manufacturing going on in New York and Massachusetts, but not as much as people might have claimed. I started keeping a spreadsheet because I kept coming across so many different Illinois bicycle brands and models. So the brand, like you can see at the top of my list there, Featherstone is the brand, and they had all these different models of bicycles. My spreadsheet now has 500 bicycle companies and more than 800 different models. So it's nothing like the consolidation we had today. Every little bike shop was producing their own. Sometimes they were just sticking their own head badge on it and getting it from somebody else. But there's documentation of 500 different companies, a huge number. So this is Chicago bicycle industry during the boom. I went and looked at city directories again to get some more hard data on how big this boom was. If you kind of look at my chart over there, in 1890, there was only 13 under the heading of bicycles. According to the directories, that peaked at 300 just in the city of Chicago in 1900. I did that. So I expressed that as a ratio, one bicycle shop for every 4,200 residents. Copenhagen today, it's 1 to 4,500. Amsterdam, 1 to 5,500. And Chicago today, it's now 1 to 73,000 ratio of shops to residents. So Um, Again, just putting some hard numbers to my claims. Uh, a couple of the bigger names in the bicycle industry, Western Wheelworks was the largest in Chicago and probably the largest in the world, at least for a couple of years. They were producing 57,000 bikes in 1895 and 70,000 in 1896. That factory there, you can see it over on the right-hand side. The factory, it became the Dr. Scholl's, like the insoles, right? Dr. Scholl's for most of the 20th century, it was Dr. Scholl's. Building still exists today. It's the Cobbler Square lofts, like really high-end, fancy, renovated lofts up in Chicago. One of my favorite bicycle images from this time came from Crescent Bicycles and Western Wheelworks. In order to distinguish your bikes against everybody else's, you needed to, advertising was really competitive, so they hired the best artists of the day. The artist here was Frederick Winthrop Ramsdale. It was so this was a cover of one of their catalogs, and they sold this as or they gave it away as a poster. They got up to 100,000 per day. People probably know this name. Schwinn was started in 1895. In its early years, Schwinn was not the dominant force that it became in the 20th century. They were a minor player, but they had good contracts later on with Sears and Montgomery Ward that led them to become a much larger and dominant bicycle company. This guy, I'll talk a little bit about the big guy in here is Baby Bliss. He's got some local connections. The guy on the right was Ignaz Schwinn, the founder of Schwinn Bicycles. So this was a fun discovery. This guy's name is Leonard, and his nickname was Baby Bliss. And he claimed to be the world's heaviest cyclist. At some points, he claimed 500 pounds or 565 pounds. There was probably a little bit of exaggeration going on there, but he's obviously a big guy, right? So why did bicycle companies want him to ride their bikes? If there's 500 bicycle brands in the state, how are you going to distinguish yourself, right? So what they said is like, well, if Baby Bliss, if people see him riding our bikes, they know they're durable, right? They're going to hold up to wear and tear. So it was a sign of quality. And I found out that he attended Wesleyan for at least a year, so that was an interesting local connection. He's actually buried out here in a rural Central Illinois cemetery. Um, you want to, Will, you want to try this quote? It's got some dialect in it. It's a challenge.
Sure, I can give it a shot.
You're gonna have to turn your mic on though if you want to try it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. You want to give
Okay,
it a shot?
I'll give it a shot. When he gets onto his wheel, you ought to see him. He's a sight. No, the wheel ain't any bigger than any other. When he gets on, you wouldn't believe it would hold him. But it does. I tell you, he's a sight. He's 23 years old and bigger than you and Papa and Grandma all put together. He's good natured too, and he likes to have the kids follow him. I followed him all the afternoon, and he never said a word to me except when I got to near, and he says, "Get out the way, kid, or I might fall on you and squash you." And I got out the way, you bet.
Well done. That's definitely the hardest of the quotes with the dialect there. So that was in an Iowa paper from 1896. Uh, this one of my favorite catalog images. This is another Chicago company that was quite big, Gormulli and Jeffrey. So if you take a look at what's going on here, so we've got a Native American going to ride away on this Gormulli and Jeffrey bike. Take a look at the horse. See what's going on there? Horse has got an arrow sticking out of his neck. So the Native American has decided that the bicycle is superior to the horse, doesn't need his horse anymore. He just needs his Gormulli and Jeffrey bicycle. I thought it was a really interesting catalog cover. Uh, along with the industry side of things, that company that I talked about, Western Wheelworks, they eventually pioneered industrial stamping. And they weren't the first to do it, but they were the first to do it at scale. So for American manufacturing, this is really kind of a big deal. They used great big stamping presses to speed up their processes. So I had written a little bit about this, and this company, the Discovery Channel, puts on this show called Impossible Engineering. They found out about some of my work, and they're like, "Hey, we want to do something about how Tesla is stamping out great parts of their cars and the history. How do we explain that?" And they're like, do you want to come to Chicago and shoot a segment? And I was like, yeah, it sounds great. I always want to talk about bikes and bike history. So they brought me up to Chicago, and we shot a segment in the park. I think this will work. Let's see if we get sound here. Do you have sound on your end when I play it? Let me think. Let me think. So this is going to move on a little bit from the industry side of things, and looking a little bit about social and cultural impacts. So I talked a little bit about the progressive era earlier. What were some of the things that they cared about? Temperance, which led to prohibition, women's rights, suffrage, dress reform, right to education, independence, labor rights and protections, and reduced corruption in government. So what are the ways that the bicycle played into this? So cycling and the boom really coincided with the rational dress movement. There were a number of reforms, but some of it was like just reducing the amount that was normal for women to wear during the Victorian era, right? Uh, Victorians were well known for the huge skirts and corsets and crinoline and whalebone dresses. So the dress reformers, they wanted women's dress not to exceed 7 pounds. 7 pounds was the goal to get down to at the time, to kind of put this into context. Um, so this is a good quote from a woman cyclist, and she says, "When a woman wants to learn anything or do anything useful, even have any fun, there's always someone to solemnly warn her. It's her duty to keep well. Meanwhile, in many states, she can work in factories 10 hours a day. She can stand behind counters in badly ventilated stores from 8 to 6 and bend over a sewing machine for 5 cents an hour. No one cares enough to protest. These same women, condemned to sedentary lives indoors, find a cheap and delightful way of getting fresh air and exercise they needed so sorely. There's a great hue and cry about their physical welfare." So you can see that the cyclists are kind of pressing up against some social norms of the time period. Susan B. Anthony she didn't do much riding herself. She was older at this time, but she was a big fan of bicycles. This initial quote appears quite often. It's a well-known quote of Anthony's. She says, "Let me tell you what I think of bicycling. I think it's done more to emancipate women than anything else in the world. I stand and rejoice every time I see a woman ride by on a wheel." She goes on to talk about the bloomer costume, which is part of that dress reform movement. In addition, as part of this bicycle boom and part of building bicycle culture, there was a lot of bicycle sheet music. There was bicycle fiction stories published. There was bicycle poetry. Anybody want to take a stab at this one? This one's a little easier than what I had Will read. Anybody want to unmute and give this one a go, or shall I do it?
I'll read it.
All right.
I'd rather ride my wheel astride and have my handles dropped than sit erect and be correct as though my spine were propped. I'd rather race at killing pace and ride a higher gear than slowly creep along the street because the fines are dear. I'd rather wear the bloomer's fare and sport a sweater gay than wear a skirt and fancy shirt to please some squeamish jay.
Thanks. It's good. It's good to break up just my voice with these. So perhaps not great poetry, but it gets a sense of this was also the era of the new woman. The new woman was educated. She went out. She went to college. She lived on her own. Didn't necessarily need to be married. And this poem kind of gets at that sense. Um, there was a couple instances of bloomer dance. So the bloomer costume, that's like it's kind of pictured in the sheet music over there. It sort of looks like it's skirt, but it's actually split. It's like really poofy large pants, I suppose, is a way to describe them. Uh, and while cycling was popular, they had some dances. The cyclists got together and they put on a dance. Chicago aldermen, they decided that any woman dancing in bloomers was to be treated as a common prostitute. So this was pretty divisive in society. Uh, let's see, this is, oh, that's a good one, but there's a better one coming up. I'm gonna skip that one. Uh, I've shared a couple, I think, from this. This is Puck Magazine, which did great color illustrations at the time. A lot of current events, so a lot of bicycle images. This is the bicycle, the great dress reformer of the 19th century. So even during that time period, they knew that cyclists would champion this dress reform movement. I've got a good collection of these. This actually comes from my collection. These were stereo views. They were really popular at the same time. Everybody had them like in their parlor. You went on vacation, you bought some of these and you took them home so people could look at them. They look a little bit 3D with the viewer. When you have the viewer, it gives it a little bit of depth. But this was so this was part of that the new woman idea, right? So the woman's got her bicycle. She's telling her husband, sew on your own buttons. I'm going for a ride. And he's there with the kids. There's a whole series of these. Another one. Have dinner ready at 1, right? So he's doing the washing the kids. She's going to head out for a ride. Yeah, this one. If somebody Perry, did you say you wanted to take a shot at one of these?
Sure.
All right, give it a go.
Okay. The practice of running down women riders is not as general as it should be, for they are, with a few exceptions, the greatest nuisance ever met with on the boulevards. One woman on a bicycle will cover the entire boulevard, zigzagging back and forth, and will eventually prevent anyone from passing unless he does succeed in running her down. A woman takes advantage of her sex and makes impositions that a man would never think of making. She expects, because she is a woman, that everyone driving or attempting to drive past her will politely stop his horses until she has fully decided on her own mind, if she can decide, how small a fraction of the road she will deign to grant him. And then he will be permitted to meekly trot his horses over the allotted portion.
Yes, yeah, this is why I farm out the quotation so I don't have to read this and have people get mad at me. If you read a lot of newspapers from this time period, satire was quite popular, right? This is the era of Mark Twain. There was a lot of this tongue-in-cheek sort of writing, and I guess I've read the whole thing a couple of times, and it seems like it's satire, although you don't have to read too many editorials about bicycles in today's papers to like, well, I don't know, is this guy serious or not? But it was one that I included in my presentations, and I think I got some of it in the book as well. Uh, this again, the social implications, and especially when sort of the men that thought they were in charge to keep women in their place, they came up with all these bicycle maladies, things that could happen to you as a cyclist if you did too much. Bicycle face was like, remember when your parents told you don't make that face and get slapped because it'll freeze that way. Bicycle face was from riding too much and you had like this haggard expression. Bicycle walk is from the cyclists that rode too much. It changed their walk so that they were like pedaling while they were trying to walk. Bicycle hump, bicycle hands, bicycle gums caused by fast cycling and cold air over the gums. Teeth could loosen and fall out. There's no basis in this, but for keeping women in what they thought was their place, right? It was a means of control. There was a lot of unfounded claims about cycling and female infertility. I think this is a great side note. You can go from this time period and you can find medical journals and stuff like women shouldn't ride very much. They shouldn't ride hard because they may become infertile. And interestingly, like modern research in the last 20 years has shown correlation between high mileage cycling and infertility. You want to guess what sex that it applies to, though? It's not women. So they had that one completely backwards. Another one of the best images that I came across. So women did race during the 1890s. It was a big spectator sport. They were paid quite a lot as racers as well. So this one is bicycle racing transforms lovely women into a perfect fright after they raced for a couple days. They raced a couple hours each day. And so this was the artist's illustration of what they looked like before and after, this idea of bicycle face and everything. None of it was actually true. I mean, they would have been tired after a couple of days of racing, but again, it was to try to cast cycling as in this light as something that women should not be involved in. This is the Illinois State Journal from July 15, 1895. I'm not going to read them all to you, but this is a good example of what women cyclists were up against. And I think the whole thing is longer. I think this is just all I could fit on a slide without making it really small. But different, gender and social differences that applied to women at the time was quite crazy. So kind of a so what, a summary for this section. I argue, and I think have good evidence that bicycling made real substantial contributions towards women's rights, gave women more freedom of movement and less reliance on men than they ever had. They were a driving force between women's dress reform. It's one of the first sports where women established themselves as serious athletes. They occasionally competed against men, and some of the best women cyclists would routinely beat most of the men cyclists. And this, riding long distances, riding fast, proved that they were not frail and weak. So fairly substantial accomplishments there. There is, let's do a little bit of this. The Church of the Wheel. So there was big divides among various religious denominations about whether or not cycling was the work of the devil, right? Some of the preachers argued that because the bicycles were so popular on Sundays, a lot of people had a 6-day work week, and so they would either go to church, but when some decided to ride on Sunday, that the bicycle must be sent by the devil to trap people and to keep them out of church. Another poem about the church and cycling. I tied this back into the European scientific revolution and how that eroded the power of some religious institutions and created a distrust of technology. But something as simple as the bicycle is kind of wild. Let's do this one. So this was from Dearborn, Illinois. No greater crime against civilization can be committed than the action of bicycle clubs to hold their meets, parades, and races, other sports on Sunday. It's a question of health and civic virtue. For those to trample upon the religious use of Sunday as a day of rest and worship is to poison the lifeblood of our American civilization. This name probably familiar, right? Dwight Moody, the Moody Bicycle Institute. He was also not at all a fan of the bicycles. He said, I don't believe anyone can see the vast throng of young men in our cities. I'm sorry to say bad women too, on their bicycles, going off into the country and fields and woods to spend the Sabbath, trampling the laws of God into the dust, filling their pockets with Sunday newspapers, and these are their Bibles. It wouldn't have been tolerated a few years ago. Yet another social divide around bicycles. Some churches in Chicago decided to embrace the cycles rather than banning them. So this Reverend Jenkins Lloyd Jones, they invited their parishioners. They did bicycle valet parking, so you didn't have to worry about your bike being stolen. You could still get your Sunday ride in. They parked them in the church basement, made sure that they were all checked out properly, and this was a way to recruit people. I'm gonna jump ahead to my last couple of slides. I said that I build in extra time just to see for various presentations. So much good stuff I have to skip over. So we spent the whole time really focusing on the 1890s. What happens after that? I think about 70% of my book is in the boom, maybe 60 something percent, and it focuses on that boom period. Bicycles become less important after after the boom. But Illinois and Schwinn in particular, that continues to dominate the bicycle industry. So even after the boom, Illinois remains quite important in terms of the whole nation. Uh, my book title indicates that there's a lot of extreme booms and busts. So there was some of the busts were tied to world wars, the Stingray style of bicycles, the 10-speed bicycle movement, the fitness movement of the 1970s, environmental movement, Arab oil embargo, and more recently the COVID pandemic. These are some of the booms and busts tied to cycling. I also make the argument that in the 21st century, bicycles start to live up to their egalitarian potential. So reduction of emissions, environmental causes, health issues, bicycle co-ops where kids and adults learn to work on bikes, and they can earn a bike doing that. Bike share programs that reduce congestion in big cities. I do have a little bit of Champaign-Urbana history. This is just these are the couple of pieces that made it into my book. First one is from the 1930s. So this was at the U of I. Undergraduate students couldn't bring automobiles to campus. It led to a surge in bicycle riding. At the time, there were an estimated 1,000 bicycles and many Ingos. Ingos are that thing on the right-hand side there that those Hollywood stars are riding on. It's not really, it doesn't have pedals. It's the rear wheel is offset, so you kind of jump up and down, and that drives the bicycle. They were made in Illinois. They were popular for about a decade. So we jump to the 70s, again on the U of I campus. This would be that 10-speed bicycle era, right? Throngs of bicycle riding college students cause pedestrians to wait up to 15 minutes to cross some busy streets. Another one of these booms. At the end of my book, I bring it up to current times. So I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, but it's a pretty big manufacturing facility out there in Rantoul. It's BRG. It was BRG Sports, and I think it was Bell Sports before them. They produced 4.5 million Bell, Giro, and Blackburn bicycle helmets. That's 42% of the global helmet market. And that's not all coming out of Rantoul, but that company produced 42%. The factory also assembles 100,000 bicycle seats and 700 bicycle car racks annually. So this is some of that. This is the heritage, the Illinois manufacturing heritage. We don't produce hardly any bikes. A few handmade bikes are made up in Chicago. That's all been offshored to Asia. But some of these accessories, a lot of them are still being made, and some just outside of Champaign-Urbana. So we got this guy over here on the right-hand side, Lance Armstrong. He wrote this book. It's not about the bike. As we all know, in his case, it was very much about the drugs that allowed him to win some races before he got caught doing that. But I like what he said there. It's not about the bike, and that's really why I got interested in this. I'm really interested in about how bicycles changed society and culture, and that's the more interesting piece to me, is the many different ways, and we've covered some of them, that bicycles impacted culture and society. What else? American industrialization, the rise and fall of Midwest manufacturing, really important story. Bicycles are one part, one chapter of that story. Development of the automobile, we didn't get that too much. Gender roles, urban planning, transportation, professional development of professional sports, and leisure time. So, yeah, information on the book here. University of Illinois Press published this, so another nice local connection there. If you're interested in the book, it may be a little bit cheaper with this discount code directly from the press. I like to, if you don't know about it, bookshop.org is great. If you've got a local shop bookstore that you can go into, that's always the best. But bookshop.org benefits independent booksellers, so you can order from them instead of some of these other big guys and still benefit your local bookshop. That's the book information, and we'll take some questions if you have any.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. So just as a note, before questions begin, if you are interested in buying Chris's book, I did paste the link to the University of Illinois Press page in the chat. So if you wanted to check it out, you can. But we'll now take questions.
I don't have a question, but when I came to town in 77, I can sure remember the bike lanes packed with bicyclists when it came time to for class changeovers.
Wow.
I don't know that I ever had to wait 15 minutes, but you had to be very careful.
But like newspapers were a lot of my sources, and they always like to take the maximal, like, somebody said one time they waited 15 minutes, and that's what they probably reported on. I doubt it was a routine that much traffic.
Well, one question I have, Chris, isn't about the history itself. You mentioned that you were living in Rock Island for a brief period of time. I was wondering if you had any interactions or interest in ragbri on the other side of the river.
Yeah, I have some interest. It's never one that I got to. For years, I raced. I raced triathlon really from '93 to 2017, and I was pretty serious about that, which took up a lot of my summers and training time. So it's not one that I've gone over and done. I've done a lot of long rides. I raced Ironman, so that was a 112-mile ride as part of the triathlons. I do like bike packing, which is similar to ragbri, just putting my camping stuff on my bike and heading off and checking out gravel roads and rails trails and that sort of thing.
All right. Anyone have any questions? All right. Well, if not, if you do have any questions and you don't want to ask them now, or if you think of something later, feel free to reach out to me. You can call the museum or email me, and I can relay those to Chris to get those answered. But otherwise, thank you all for joining tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope to see all of you at our next history talk in March, which will be at the Sydney Legion, where we're going to be having Bill McLean talk about his military collection and museum there. All right. Thank you all for coming. Have a good night.
All right.
Good night.